there's cycles of sunspot activity where the sun emits these fantastic projections of energy known as sunspots, some of which are as big as Jupiter, most are as big as the Earth or bigger. And this is the recent cycle where they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they wind down. There's fewer and fewer of them, and then we've gone into the low side of it, and that's why temperatures have been falling, and they've changed global warming to climate change. And therefore, as these sunspots project this energy, this solar energy, and it comes to this part of the solar system, things tend to warm up. That's what goes on. And this is why, in the period where temperatures went up for a while, as part of the cycle, then temperatures also went up on other planets. And it's kind of funny, because David de Rothschild was on the Alex Jones show in America, and he was asked why, if global warming is on Earth is caused by human carbon emissions, why the temperature of Mars is also going up. And he said, because Mars is closer to the sun than the Earth. So, didn't get a good education at that time, I have to say. With all that money, too. Now, in the medieval warm period, as scientists call it, about 800 years ago, 1,000 years ago, or 1000 AD, temperatures were much, much higher than they are today. So the question is, how did that happen? How could it be? Turbocharged handcarts? Is that what it was? Carbon emissions from hand plows? What was it? It was the sun, a sun cycle. And by the way, the medieval warm period was a time of great abundance. When it gets really cold that catastrophe happens. Like when we went into the Little Ice Age, which followed the medieval warm period. And so many of it's the hottest temperature since records began. And you say, well, when did records begin? And they go 1800 and something. First of all, that's 5 minutes ago in Earth climate cycles. And B, it's right in the bloody coming out of the Little Ice Age, and earlier, right in the Little Ice Age. Of course it's a lot warmer now. Thank God for that. In the Little Ice Age, you still see this depicted in Christmas cards in England every year. They used to have ice fairs on the River Thames because it froze so solid. They had fairs actually on the Thames. And then as we came out of the Little Ice Age, sunspot activity started to increase and temperatures increased. Stands back in amazement. And if we bring it up to closer to the present day, it continued. It went up, sunspot activity, to about 1940, and then went down to 1975. Earth temperature went up to 1940 and down to 1975, and then after 1975 it started to climb. And now it started to, over the last few years, go down again. But they're repetition. Now I saw this guy. Like me, this is no anti-environmentalist. He was a former advisor to Greenpeace and lead advocate for Greenpeace. And he goes around now doing presentations saying, for goodness sake, don't listen to them. And he points out, behind the scenes, there's major disagreement among scientists. You don't hear about that because only those that say it's true get in the news on any number. Parallel to carbon dioxide rising, the solar field has increased by over 200% since 1900, and this is not factored to computer models. The solar field has increased by 200%. Global temperature is not rising as predicted. In fact, it fell by a whopping 0.6 degrees over the last 12 months, as much as it had gained in the previous 50 years. Many of the apparently random fluctuations of past temperature, like when the Vikings grew crops in Greenland, correlate to variations in the solar electric field. Between 1983 and 2001, cloud cover, according to the International Satellite Cloud Climatology Project, fell by 4%, more than enough to heat oceans and account for global warming. A spate of recent science shows that temperature oscillations are timed by solar cycles, that the jet stream is affected by the solar wind, and that past high and low points in the solar cycle correlate with past temperature swings. It's a scam. And just by repetition, it shows how powerful that is in programming the body computer that is not conscious and therefore can come from another perspective to accept whatever it's told. And temperatures, like I say, have been falling recently. This was in a national newspaper in Britain. Global warming could stop naturally for 10 years, say scientists. All right, but we'll still go on with all the international law. There you go. This is a guy, I won't go into this, but this is a guy who is the chief advisor to Al Gore on climate change, and he's been exposed as fixing the figures, publicly exposed as fixing the figures when they didn't fit in terms of the temperature rising. And of course, Mr. Change, Mr. Fake, has appointed in his energy and environmental departments all supporters of Al Gore. What a surprise. And if you want to confirm it's a scam, there you go. Okay, breaking the spell, because that's what it is. Spell has been cast on the human mind to put us in a state of perception that is not the one that we would naturally have without the spell. It's a genetic spell and it's a energetic spell. And our natural state is one of harmony with the rest of this reality and harmony with the multidimensional self. But along came this schism, this energetic change, this genetic intervention, which took us from a state of harmony, this golden age, to increasing control of our sense of perception, which broke up this society into warring factions, not just warring factions within the society, but warring factions within ourselves, because most of us are at war with ourselves. We're at war between what we feel and what we think, what we'd like to do and what we think we ought to do, what is our perceived duty and what our free spirit, where that would like to take us. It's a schism on every level. And the more that we are divided within ourselves and between ourselves, the more easy we are to manipulate and control. And so much of it, the prime level of it, is through the manipulation of the reptilian brain and its primitive emotional responses and its survival mechanism, which is based on fear and surviving in so many different ways, not just physically. I mean, the reptilian brain does fear because it's fear that activates its survival mechanism on so many levels, and its survival responses like fight or flight. When we say rightly that fear is the weapon that is most used to keep humans in line, yes, that's true, but what part of us is activated through fear so that we respond in the desired fashion? The reptilian brain. It's through the reptilian brain that we get insecurity feelings, emotional insecurity. Again, it's a form of not surviving. It's amazing how this survival sense manifests in so many ways. You know, when we have, let's start with that one, when we have religious beliefs and they are challenged, that too activates the reptilian brain survival mechanism, because survival of the belief system is at stake, is under challenge. And so you get primitive emotional responses when religious, rigid beliefs are challenged by information or other views. Same with political views, even political views. When you are having them challenged, the reptilian brain kicks in because the belief system is under threat of not surviving. Same with race and self-identity. When we have this self-identity, this is who we are, when that comes under challenge, again, the self-identity is in danger of not surviving and the reptilian brain impulses are kicked in. It's the key way that we are controlled and the way that we defend rigid belief systems and therefore rigid ways that the brain fires off and reads reality, and mostly puts us in a prison, a vibrational prison. And often because we feel more secure in the sense that our belief system is right,